our company's Meritus Corporations, one of the key companies that we have is called District Management Services. And it's kind of unique in that we're here today in celebration. The very concept that I'm going to speak of reflects the exact process that occurred for the financing of a lot of the public infrastructure within Celebration. There's been a few financings that actually occurred to finance the roads, utilities, and some of the other public infrastructure through a community development district that exists over Celebration. The process for energy finance districts mimics that same process, along with all the way back to the days of Ben Franklin. And today I'm here to talk about those types of energy finance districts and the potential for local municipalities to embrace that as a form of a tool or a finance mechanism to assist commercial and industrial type properties to finance energy improvements. And the main benefit is to eliminate the use of basically upfront capital for those conversions and to finance it over a period of time that makes sense with the types of improvements that are being reviewed. Today you probably heard earlier of some other case studies with envelope sealing, HVAC improvements, etc., and some of the paybacks that can be received as a result of that. The primary, I guess, benefit of creating what we call PACE districts, it's Property Assessed Clean Energy, is that it allows us to place special assessments, a lot like Celebration's Community Development District, and those special assessments that it places against private property owners that choose to participate. And by placing that benefit assessment over, it allows us to go out to the market, whether that's a private placement or through the typical tax-exempt financing structure, and raise capital to deliver those improvements to that private property. The initiative in Florida is relatively new. It originally included residential within that initiative, and the statute for reference is Florida Statute 163.08. It was basically came into law last year, along the same time as some position papers came along from FHFA, which recognized, at least in their position, that there was an impairment to their security as the first mortgagee on many residential households. With that, the 800-pound, I guess the gorilla in the room was FHFA, and the threat that was made within that position paper was that any municipality that went forward with a residential PACE program would be redlined, which could be considered discrimination in some areas. But nonetheless, what it did is if they did go forward with that, they would automatically assume the 20% debt load on those residential properties prior to financing them. So it really stopped that assessment-based program on residential. However, it did not impede the ability for commercial properties to enjoy in this mechanism as one of the tools to push and finance the initiative through. So with that, and knowing that that caused a little bit of a delay, now we have some other municipalities that are ready to move forward in entertaining this type of finance mechanism. And essentially it works like this. The first step is, the local municipality will typically either have or be reviewing some type of a sustainability action plan, which will be all-encompassing. And again, this is a part of it. They'll review the PACE assessment process and either look to adopt a resolution or a special ordinance that allow for that voluntary assessment on the property. If that's chosen, then those participants will basically be assembled through the local chamber of commerce or special groups, nonprofits, etc., to start to create the interest pools, whereby they'll engage a energy auditor, usually a commercial energy auditor, go through, identify where the weaknesses are, where the improvements can be made, the rate of return and paybacks. I know I've heard recently, a few weeks ago, there was a commercial building in Tampa that had an energy an energy consumption of about $1.3 million a year in their electric bill. Some modifications, HVAC envelope ceilings, that will save them approximately $700,000 a year. Which shows a pretty quick payback. But the question is, where do I come out of pocket for the money? If they engaged in this type of activity, if the local municipality approves it, we can provide the financing with nothing out of pocket. They can keep the incentives or any other attractive programs that are either federally or locally or done by utilities. They can keep that money as a true incentive into the program. And then the actual payments would be financed over a period of time, which up to 20 years, and it'd be on the tax bill for the payments. So it's a really neat program. It's nothing new, however, it is a new application, and you'll see a lot of use of this over the next couple years as there's more attention drawn to it, and of course the capital markets continue to tighten up for private institutions that may own their own facility, or investment funds that own facilities find that the capital's not there for these types of improvements, even though they do make sense over the course of 5 to 10 to 15 year type paybacks. One of the key things probably to note today is that there is a limitation as to how much money can be utilized, and that's based on the assessed value of the facility in accordance to the property appraiser. And the statute allows up to 20% of that appraised value, unless you can show that the improvements can be paid back within the period of finance. So if let's say you insulate a building for $15,000 and a qualified energy rater can show where that'll pay for itself inside of the finance period, then that's discounted from the cap, from the 20% cap. And the main reason why the state of Florida did that is that it also allows for wind hardening improvements to be financed alongside of the energy improvements, so that you can actually use some of that capacity to redo the roof, gable embracing, and other types of shutters, etc., things that physically attach to the building and can't be removed, those types of improvements to the facility. We are seeing this used within the economic development model through some of the economic development initiatives within a lot of the municipalities, so that this money can, then this type of financing can be utilized for an overall revitalization of commercial corridors, and also attribute towards sustainability initiative, and then some of the wind hardening measures that are there to reduce our liability and some of the events that we faced previously. We were lucky last year. Hopefully we're lucky again this year, but you never know. That does have an impact to the state as to our preparedness and readiness to mitigate or minimize those damages. So we're excited about the tool. We've been around it a long time. We've done hundreds of millions of dollars of financings, typically for roads and utilities, and we've built clubhouses as such through this type of financing. So it is a simple process. Hopefully I kind of at least gave an overview as to how it works with the energy side, and we really rely on those experts, the qualified energy raters, and then other types of individuals that are in that industry, to show and demonstrate some of the improvements that they can do in the paybacks, whether it's LED lighting. If you've got especially in a municipal type budget where you're looking at a 10 or 20 or 30 year plan, where LED lights start to make sense in your municipal owned garages, street lighting programs, or within facilities. Whereas on a residential grade or residential basis, sometimes the vision of being there in 10 years and seeing that payback's not always there. So commercial and industrial, I think, is a great way to pilot this program, and that's on a national basis. Across 23 different states right now have embraced this type of legislation to allow it to afford.